This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the CEO of Velocity Minerals, Mr. Keith Henderson. Keith, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. Good to hear from you.
It's great to have you on. This is a news story to our audience, and I think the timing is absolutely perfect for it. You are building a multi-asset gold production profile in a very, very stable jurisdiction. You've done a phenomenal job the past several years of de-risking the projects and the profile, and I want to get to all of that. But beforehand, I would love for you to give us a bit of a primer on your background because it's significant.
Yeah, sure. I'm a geologist by training. I've been in the business for, I like to say about 25 years, but maybe it's getting closer to 30. I don't know. We're all moving forward, but yeah, I've worked all over the world in a whole bunch of different commodities and a whole bunch of different settings with junior companies, with major companies. I've a hell of a lot of experience, and the four of us that founded this company all have a lot of experience. So, putting us all together, you get over 100 years of us and the things that we've done and the things that we know. And we have a range of experience all the way from exploration and discovery through to developing projects and building mines.
Well, and let's talk about the team because I think that's important as well. You talked about, the 100 years plus of experience. There's also a lot of monetization of assets that this team has been very successful at doing. I know Mark Cruz, with Trevally Mining, I think that at one point had $1 billion market cap, if I'm not mistaken. And I could go on down the list, but the team is also very, very, very accomplished.
Yeah, if you look at the team, not just management, but also on the board, we have that kind of history and that kind of experience. We've got some pretty big hitters on the board as well. Stephen Dean, who's CEO of Artemis Gold. They made an investment in the company a number of years ago, and Stephen joined the board a little over a year and a half ago, and his insight and advice as we move forward is very valuable to us. From the founders, Mark Cruz, as you mentioned, obviously had big successes with Trevally over a 10-year period, and you're right, that did become a $1 billion company, and was a very, very big success story, growing from basically from an exploration project through to operating 4 mines on 3 different continents. So yeah, that was an impressive achievements there.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then within management, myself, we've done a number of interesting deals over the years. One of the highlights for me was taking forward an iron deposit in Peru with a previous company that I worked for, and we were able to sell that company for $100 million US cash from a really very small investment of sub $1 million. So that was a big success for us in seeing the value in an asset and moving it forward quickly and getting it into the correct kind of market at the time to get a project sale. So it's all about creating value for shareholders and getting exit points for shareholders and giving people a reason really to invest in these projects, knowing that the team behind it have the ability to move it forward and get it to an exit if that's the appropriate outcome.
I mentioned that I thought your timing was perfect and the way that it's set up here, I believe that we're about to enter the next leg up in the gold cycle. You have 2 projects that you've done a phenomenal job of de-risking. I would love for you to explain to everyone the hub and spoke development strategy that you have for each of these. And interestingly, these are in an emerging gold district in Southeast Bulgaria, which I think is a very underrated jurisdiction as far as stability and just rule of law, which is of course critical, right? With everything going on globally, permitting wise and the instability all over the place. Can you speak a bit to Bulgaria? And then let's talk about that hub and spoke strategy and the projects.
Yeah, look, Bulgaria is an emerging economy. It's growing quickly. It's a mining country. They've got 5% of their GDP connected to mining. They entered the EU in the mid-2000s, having come out of a planned economy. So, big changes in the country, but it's really embracing that. And there's a lot of entrepreneurial attitude in the country and a lot of, you can rely on Bulgaria and you can rely on having the backing of the EU behind the country as well. So you have absolute security of tenure and you don't have to worry about strange things happening or losing properties. Everything's secure. So it's a good country in that respect.
Let's talk about the flagship. Let's start there. Pre-feasibility study, after-tax net present value of 163 million, after-tax IRR of 27.4%. Tell me a bit about the Rosano project.
Yeah, we think the Rosano project is a very stable project. We have moved it extremely quickly. Like your listeners, if they're hearing about the company for the first time, are coming in approximately the end of year 4. We went into Rosano 4 years ago. We drilled, we produced a resource estimate, we got to a PEA, and then we moved it all the way through a pre-feasibility study as well. So we're at very advanced levels of engineering and understanding on the project. It's a decent gold asset. It's really well disseminated. It's a very mineable deposit. It's close to surface. Most of the resources are closer than 100 meters from surface. It's got a good grade profile, a good production profile over 7 years. And we're working with Rosano. We own 70% of the project. Our minority partner, Gurubsu, is a private Bulgarian mining company. They have a processing facility located in a town close by the project, about 80 kilometers away. So our plan at Rosano is basically to produce a concentrate on site, to transport that concentrate to the processing facility, and then to produce gold doré at surface. And all of that is extremely doable. And as you pointed out, the economics look excellent. Those economics were done, by the way, at $1,500 gold in terms of price assumptions. So obviously, since the time that we published the pre-feasibility study, things are looking quite a lot better.
It's important to highlight some more of the numbers from the pre-feasibility study. Your cash costs come in at $699 per ounce. That's in US dollars. The all-in sustaining costs come in at $755 per ounce. The total estimated capital cost is $94.8 million, which again, I have to believe that profile there with nearly 500,000 ounces of high grade near surface gold has to make you an attractive takeout target. And I'll ask you a bit about the strategic shareholders here in just a bit, but Rosano also has pretty significant exploration upside, right?
Yeah, we've been exploring in Rosano basically ever since we published the pre-feas. We've been looking, drilling additionally close to the deposit. We've had some success over the last few months drilling directly underneath the deposit into rocks that we previously hadn't tested, and we've hit more mineralization there. The deposit is open in that respect, both at depth and to the north. We've also been doing some exploration pretty close to Rosano, and we've had some successes there, some really good rock chip samples at surface, which we'll be testing with drilling. And then within the greater license area, Rosano sits within a license that's, I think it's about 120, 130 square kilometers. So, it's a big license and there's a lot of ground to look at there. So all of that represents upside for us for sure, yeah.
You also have a pipeline of other projects. Care to touch on those briefly?
Yeah, we do. We've got a 70% interest in the Obichnik property. We've done some work there. We produced an initial resource there during the year, which is approximately 150,000 ounces. More work to do in that area. We're earning a 70% interest in the Makedonci project, which is close by. It's actually very close to the processing facility, just about 10 kilometers away. So that's an attractive project. And we have quite a bit of work to do there, including with some applications that we've made for more ground in the surrounding area. And then fourthly, we've got 100% interest in a project called Iglika, which is definitely close enough. If we can find a gold deposit there, it's definitely close enough to transport a concentrate to this processing facility as well. This is a project that has had very little in the way of historical work done. So we're really starting from scratch, but we've taken a really multidisciplinary approach to exploration over the last year. We've thrown a lot of geochemistry and geophysics at it, and we've developed some really, really good targets. So we're just going through a permitting process right now, and we hope to be drilling on that project for the first time fairly soon. And that's really a high priority target for us. Beyond those kind of existing projects, we're always on the hunt for more within Bulgaria and maybe a little bit beyond. We've made a number of applications which are in the process in Bulgaria. We're also looking at some other potential acquisitions as well. So, in terms of explorers in Bulgaria, we are the number one explorer as far as I'm concerned. Dundee Precious Metals are next door to us as a producer. But on the exploration side, we're the biggest company with the most properties, and certainly the company that's spending the most money in country. And we want to continue to grow that story and secure more rights within the country.
You mentioned Stephen Dean and Artemis. Artemis, of course, has, I believe, a 32% ownership in Velocity Minerals, which is really, really interesting to me because, as I mentioned, I can see the production profile from the pre-feasibility on Rosano being very attractive for a company like Artemis, which, of course, is headed by Stephen Dean, who coincidentally sold Atlantic Gold with its hub and spoke gold operation in Canada for over 800 million. Can you talk about Artemis and Dundee Precious Metals and the strategic investment on their part?
Yeah, I'll begin with Artemis, and really the investment from Stephen Dean's side came at the time when they were ramping up production at Atlantic Gold. The interest was very much driven by the hub and spoke model. The hub and spoke model is popular in some parts of the world. It's been a little bit less common in North America, but Stephen was operating with that model in Canada, in Nova Scotia, and saw that it was working, and he really liked what we were doing in that respect. So that was the reason for his interest in the company. And yeah, they've got 32% right now, and I believe they continue to be interested in what we're doing. Like it's a matter of getting to a critical mass for a company like Artemis. They've got a very big project of their own which they're moving forward, and as we grow our story, I think if we get to a certain size, we would be of interest to them in terms of potentially taking a bigger position in the company. But that's all in the future. Dundee Precious Metals, they invested last year. They took a 9.9% interest in the company at that time. Their interest is a little bit different, you know. They've got the two producing mines in Bulgaria. They've been operating in Bulgaria for around 15 years. They're renowned to be excellent operators within the country, both in terms of the technologies that they use and the success that they've had in mining. Their Ada Tepe project, Krumovgrad, that's located approximately 20 kilometers away from Rosano. It's a little more, probably about 35-40 kilometers by road. But that's an interesting project. It's a beautiful high-grade open pit mine. It's in commercial production. They're producing record amount of gold and record amounts of revenue, and they're being very, very successful at the project. But the project's interesting. It's kind of a short mine life, and with a fantastic processing plant built on site. Dundee are obviously looking for future feed for that mine or for that plant. You know, the Ada Tepe as a mine, it's got about 2.5 years of high grade left, and then it moves into a lower grade time of production, another 2 to 3 years. But that relatively short mine life will come quickly, as it always does. And Rosano in the region is the most advanced project by a long ways. You know, we've been through all the technical studies, we've been through pre-feasibility study, so we have something that's ready to step into the permitting process, something that in 2, 3, at the outside 4 years could be in production, and therefore could be of real and immediate interest to a company like Dundee Precious Metals in terms of future feed for their plant. And so I can't speak for Dundee, but I have to assume that was at least part of their interest in making an investment in Velocity, and as we move forward here, we might see some more interest from Dundee. We might see that situation developing.
You have approximately 184.5 million shares fully diluted, but I think it's important to note that the float is below 30%, right? Management's got significant skin in the game. I think you're just shy of 20% ownership there. You mentioned Artemis with the 32%, Dundee with the 8%. What's the market cap look like right now, and how's the treasury looking, Keith?
Oh, the treasury is great. We're fully funded through 2021 exploration and beyond. So we have no immediate or even medium-term financing needs. In terms of management shareholding, it's an interesting one. You're right, we've got about 18.5, close to 19% sitting with management. This is a very, very positive thing for shareholders, obviously, and it's a very positive thing for me every morning when I wake up. We're significant owners, and we we will obviously continue to be so. I think our interests are extremely aligned with other shareholders, and that's good. You're right, the float is incredibly small. You put management, we have a significant shareholder out of the United States who's a close personal friend and business associate of mine. He's got about 15%. We've got 10% sitting with Dundee, 32% with Artemis, and a couple of brokers in Vancouver who've got fairly significant positions sitting among themselves and their clients. So yeah, you end up with this tiny float, which maybe liquidity is not as spectacular as it might be, but for sure it's a stable stock, and we don't seem to be exposed to the negatives that float around in the market, especially at times like these. So there's a lot of potential for the stock to move with catalysts in the future, such as significant intercepts, a new discovery at Iglika if we're lucky to get one, or any of our strategic shareholders, corporate shareholders, deciding that they want to take more of the company. These are the kinds of things that will move a company like Velocity, and with so little float out there, these movements can be pretty interesting.
That's a very modest way, and I appreciate the modesty, by the way, Keith, but that's a very modest way of saying you present compelling value now as is. If gold never goes up another dollar, and if you never find another ounce, I think both of those will prove to be favorable for you. I think gold does go up, and I think you do find more ounces. But again, I can see why Velocity makes sense for several companies at a significant premium to today's share price. And I want to leave it there. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Keith? Thank you so much for your time. You have Catalyst, you have the Treasury, you have the shareholders, you're in a stable jurisdiction, and it's gold. And I think it's a great time to be in gold.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is a great time to be in gold, and I have nothing in particular to add. Hopefully we can speak again in the future. I think this is a good, relatively simple introduction to the company, and yeah, look forward to speaking to you again at some time in the future.
I always say some of the best stories that I've made money on are the ones that are the simplest told and the simplest to execute on. I think you've done a brilliant job thus far, and it'll be interesting to watch here in the coming quarters and years. Thank you so much for your time, Keith.
That's great. Thanks very much indeed. Take care. Bye. Bye.